A truly wondrous good evening to you viewers of My Media Prime Television, and welcome to the maiden edition of the program Prime Sports on My Media Prime Television. A presentation of Rene Issa. Ladies and gentlemen, on the vitrine of today's edition of the program, we dissect elections at the helm of FECAFOOT with a list of all those who have been earmarked and selected to participate and take part in the final elections to take place in the country in December, made public today by the Commission in charge of elections. Also, we shall be looking at the road to 2022 Qatar and the chances and possibilities for Africa and Cameroon, with calls already around the continent for Africa to have a massive and an increase in terms of representation at the Intercontinental Football Jamboree to be hosted by Qatar in the year 2022. Also, we shall be paying attention to what obtained at the level of qualifiers in South Africa and Ghana, where we had a controversial penalty awarded to the Black Stars of Ghana. And as we speak, we have information from credible sources that a verdict will be passed in the hours ahead, and this verdict would either decide the fate of Ghana or South Africa. Joining us for today's edition of the program, ladies and gentlemen, are resource men with a vast experience in sports. First, we have Mr. Eno Ako. He is a sports consultant. He joins us body and soul in today's edition of the program. Sir, a truly fine good evening to you, and thank you so much for accepting the invitation to be with us in today's edition of the program Prime Sports on My Media Prime Television.
Oh, thank you so much, Rene. Good evening to televiewers. Good evening to my good friend, Dumbe Jemia. It's a pleasure to be here once again. This is My Media Prime, and I think that the best is always around My Media Prime.
My Media Prime, certainly your reference point for sports across the African continent and the world as well. Ladies and gentlemen, he is a sports commentator, a writer, and very known as Molandumbe. He is Teke Jemia. He joins us body and soul in today's edition of the program. Sir, good evening to you, and thank you so much for accepting our invitation to be with us in today's edition of the program Prime Sports on My Media Prime Television.
Well, good evening to Rene Issa, good evening to Enwako, good evening to the sport fans out there. It's a pleasure being here on My Media Prime to talk about sports, and we hope the listeners will enjoy it.
Hopefully, the listeners would get a very fine moment with us. 1 hour, 30 minutes on your champion channel. 1 hour, 30 minutes of pure sports. 1 hour, 30 minutes of analysis. And 1 hour, 30 minutes of demystification of what is happening as far as sports is concerned in the country. We shall begin, of course, looking at what is happening at the helm of FECAFOOT with the list of those who have been selected and validated to stand for the elections of the president of Cameroon's Football Federation known today. The battle seems to be going down to the wire with Samuel Etofis and Seydou Mbombonjoya, the names that has been on every lip of the Cameroonian following sports. First, would like to have your reaction, Mr. Ako Eno. You are a sports consultant. You've been following the activities at the level of FECAFOOT. Let's begin by finding out your reactions when you received the list of those who were selected and validated to stand for the post of president of FECAFOOT this day.
Yes, Rene, I definitely had mixed feelings when I received the list. And thank God the commission managed by Mr. Schleck. It's a commission which is very serious. They have actually published a list, and I'm so comfortable that with some names, whereas some other names, I think that to me, there is little or nothing to write home of. We have a name like Justin Tagu. I think that if you ask my opinion, it's just to fill the list.
Just to fill the list?
Just to fill the list. We have 6 persons vying in for the position of president. We have the legend Samuel Eto'o and Seydou Mbombonjoya. I think that's where the focus is, because when you look at both personalities, Samuel Eto'o being a legend in 2009, during the reign of Iya Mohammed, he actually told Iya Mohammed that he's going to be the president of the federation. It therefore means Eto'o had already made a declaration so many years ago while he was still playing football. Mm-hmm. And the issue was, at the time, we needed to see how we could restructure football, how we could develop football, because a lot of people pay attention on football being played in the pitch. But football, we talk about football development, and that's what we are vying for. We need to develop football. And when we talk about football development, it's a club having a junior team, a club having the female section, a well-structured organigram in terms of football. That's what we call football development. We should not be bothered only about football being played in the pitch. There you are not developing football. Reasons why the graph is always, we are always having a very steep graph after a certain period of success. Now, coming back to the personality of Samuel Eto'o, why do I think he is a good candidate for the role? Because of his international exposure. We definitely need people who can take us places. Now, when I look at Eto'o in terms of his pedigree, he can definitely open doors for the federation when it comes to FIFA. Eto'o can open doors to the when it comes to CAF. But on the contrary, when I look at people like Jules Denis Onana, I don't think he can open doors for this nation when it gets to the diplomacy and the politics in terms of at the level of FIFA. I don't think Justin Tagu has that personality to open those doors. What we need at this stage is how we can get to the next level. When I look at somebody like Sedum Bombonjoya, it's a gentleman which I have a lot of respect for him because he successfully took out people like Pierre Semenge in the game of football because we needed a change, and the change was so difficult. And Sedum Bombonjoya stood his ground to ensure that we actually go through that change. It was a very tough change because there was a lot of challenges during the period for which he was struggling to stand his ground based on the vision. Reasons why I think that Sedum Bombonjoya deserves the respect. Those of us who are sports consultants, sports analysts, I think we need to give this gentleman so much respect for the period for which he has been at the helm of the federation. We have heard little or no financial mismanagement. But in the eras of Iya Mohammed, it was so frequent issues of financial mismanagement at the level of the federation. But Sedu, in his mandate, we have had little or less discussion as far as financial misappropriations are concerned.
We're going to be coming back to that. Thank you very much. Your reactions there as far as the publication of the list of candidates is concerned. Also, viewers of My Media Prime Television, we have Jania Teke. He is a sports writer, a reporter, and a journalist as well. He's with us in the studios today. And Jania, I would like to find out from you your reactions when the list of candidates was published today by the commission in charge of these elections at the level of FECAFOOT. What was your reaction after you received the news? It seems like the battle is going down to the wire between Bombonjoya and Samuel Eto'o. Why is there more focus on these two candidates and very little or nothing is said about the other candidates?
Well, it is the exposure the two candidates carry. And when you look at the list, first of all, you understand that there have been already validation of documents have been faced with controversies. When we talk of the Samuel Eto'o having the dual nationality, that was a case filed by Bombonjoya. At one point in time, we heard from credible source, Agence Presse, a news agency in France, saying there was a secret meeting between CAF officials and FIFA officials to tell Samuel Eto'o to step down for Bombonjoya to take over. And the controversy still continues when Bombonjoya was saying that he was going to give Eto'o a post of a vice president should he step down, which means CAF and FIFA wanted to give a replica of what happened with the CAF elections, and Eto'o had to turn that down. But now, when you look at the politics in it, why Momonjia is saying Eto'o cannot run for the presidency because he has a dual nationality, but at the same time, he's telling Eto'o that step down and then I'll give you a post of vice president. That's contradictory in terms of his approach. But when we look at the two gentlemen, they have actually, just like in the case of the Southwest region, we had three candidates running for the post of presidency for the bureau. Nuputus, Njalakwan Jr. and the incumbent Nzive Thomas. But you look at it, Nuputus was a more unpopular candidate among the ring, and days to the election, he stepped down and made some confusing camps. He said he was for the incumbent, but overnight he changed camps to the Njalakwan camp. So I see that these other four people, they know that they have limited chances to carry the Fecafoot House come the December 11. So there might be some cases where they might throw their votes to either of these two candidates. I'm talking of Eto'o or Momonjia, because the two of them are like the popular candidates as far as these elections are concerned. For Eto'o, he might have the exposure, he might have his grounds somehow. You remember that he tiptoed into the Southwest region to start lobbying for his delegates, and so that's the most important thing, because unlike in 2018 when we saw Momonjia going for the delegates, Bel Joseph Antoine was busy going on TV platforms to tell Cameroonians how he wants to become president, whereas Momonjia was doing a good job. So that is what Eto'o has started, and he started with the Southwest region. But when you look at it, we might say Eto'o might be the most popular in terms of his exposure, and most people who follow Eto'o during his playing days who want him to like come in to be the president, since fan club Samuel Eto'o, most people like him, his play style, and they want to see him beef Cameroon football administratively. But when you look at the candidates or the delegates who are to vote in the various regions, you see that Momonjia carries a lot of votes from those various regions, because when you look at the Southwest region, Eto'o might win the Southwest region because the incumbent was for Momonjia, but now Njalakwan Jr. has openly declared that he and his team with the 6 candidates are going in for Samuel Eto'o. And if you look at the Northwest region, the incumbent, who is a Momonjia fanatic, won unopposed in the Northwest region. And out there in the West region, the person whom Eto'o sent was Joseph Fechi, whom he failed to counter that the incumbent out there in the West region. So you come to the littoral, Eto'o has a grip of the littoral because he himself is a candidate of the littoral. You go to the center region looks bleak for Samuel Eto'o, same with the south. But now, it might change. It's elections. Momonjia might be sitting quiet, knowing quite fully well that his groundwork might work for him based on the various delegates that he has as the majority. But now Eto'o has started his kind of underground works. Remember that he tiptoed in the Southwest region without even the media knowing.
Without the media knowing, which is a very important
aspect. So when the key stakeholders were asked why Samuel Eto'o came in and the media men were never informed, he said that Samuel Eto'o said he never wanted the media.
Right. So we're going to be coming back to that. I would like to also take interest in these particular elections, given that we know elections have already started, or better still, campaigns have started already, and we are seeing some of the candidates take adequate measures to see that they galvanize the lobby for the necessary support that they would need. There are pictures circulating already on different media platforms where Eto'o is seen with the president of the Constitutional Court, Clement Atangana, at a time like this when Cameroonians, Mr. Ako Eno, would have loved to have a football, would have loved to have a country wherein football obtains without the involvement of politicians. Citing Eto'o alongside the president of the Constitutional Court, does that ring bells in your ear as a sport consultant?
Well, I think that we cannot analyze football single-handedly. We are in an environment where other variables actually affect the game. In the yesteryears, we're talking about football not being an empire. Today, football is an empire. Football is a multi-million dollars empire these days. So you need other compartments to carry. There is a lot of diplomacy that you need to that goes with football. Reasons why people like Musepe needed to visit head of states. You remember, Ahmad visited the head of state even in Yaoundé. Ahmad visited even the president of Cote d'Ivoire, His Excellency Alassane Ouattara. So football goes with a lot of diplomacy. You need to ensure that you win the hearts of other sectors, even though those sectors directly or indirectly affects the game. We shouldn't think that because we are playing football, we are limited only to football. There are laws, both national and international laws affecting the game. Take, for example, at the local scene. In terms of ensuring that there is, you have the Ministry of Territorial Administration that can give an administrative order. And in pounds, it affects the game. So you need that support, because when the Ministry of Territorial Administration tells you that they don't want social disorder, they are within their prerogatives. So you need to ensure, and we need to understand that football is an empire affecting different sectors in society. Consequently, I wasn't surprised when I saw Eto'o with somebody like Clement Atangana.
I think we'll have the images there.
Yeah.
Possibly we're going to be having these images while we talk about Samuel Eto'o's pictured with the president of the Constitutional Court or Constitutional Council there, which has made many Cameroonian sports analysts to ask the question, how possible can football survive in Cameroon, the land of the indomitable lions, without politics? And you were bringing us very salient points there to buttress the fact that it's a new dispensation and it's seemingly impossible for football to stand on its own. There's need for football to succeed alongside politics. Are you endorsing such an argument, Mr. Akoeno?
Well, I like to endorse an argument where we understand that football is not an independent entity. There is, remember, even before we had the Seblata scandal, it's politics that affected it. It wasn't an issue of sports, because even at the level of the Court of Arbitration, I don't think they even understood that there was any issue of misappropriation ongoing at the level of FIFA. It is until FBI came out with some issues. It was all about the politicking, that the World Cup was supposed to be organized by Qatar, for which the U.S. was not in conformity of that. Consequently, the FBI started chasing Sepp Blatter and his team. It was all about politics. So you can never run the show all alone. Multi-billion empire is football. And wherever there is money, all other factors bind together. So the fact that Eto'o is already meeting with all these other stakeholders, indirectly linked to football, I think it's something which we need to applaud. We need to look at things reasons why today we always have the cacophony between the Federation and the Ministry of Sports. You have issues. Remember, some few days ago, it was the Ministry of Territorial Administration that had to send out an injunction saying that the other faction of FECAFOOT, nothing should be held as meeting. The faction held by the Senator Abembida. That wasn't football. That was politics. But he had to use his prerogative as a minister to pass an injunction for no meeting to be held. So we need the buy-in of other segments to make it progress. So I think that is a welcome idea. And remember, even Seydou Bombonjoya himself, he knows the domain so well. He too has been having, some few months ago, we saw him who was with the Minister of Sports, Mwele Kombi. So it's not surprise when you see this gentleman having meetings with the political guns of the nation.
Right, we're going to be coming back to you, the sports consultant, Mr. Eno Ako there. Jani Ateker, Cameroon's professional football league has almost not been functional for quite a period now. We've not had the youth league The female league is almost nothing to write home about. Persons and professional footballers get to complain of wages. 10 years in Cameroon, one has seen 10 coaches as far as the national team is concerned. Should any of these candidates be eventually elected president of FECAFOOT, as a sports reporter, you've been following activities in the country and you know exactly what the problem is. What would be that thing of immediacy that any eventual president would be expected of as far as FECAFOOT is concerned?
Well, there are so many issues which are going wrong as far as Cameroon football is concerned. You understand that even at the level of the national team level, the under-17s, the under-15s, right up to the senior team, all of these sectors have some problems. Remember that when you look at the football in Cameroon from the early 2000s right up to the 2010s, that was when our football started having some diminishing returns. We started seeing the likes of Kadong, Tone, they were like moving towards they were performing averagely as far as the CAF interclub competitions were concerned. We had 4 teams in the CAF, both the CAF Cup and the Champions League. But as we entered the 2010s, those things started dying down. So we asked ourselves, why are these things dying down? Because we created the professional league, which was something of a kind of government interest, that the professional league was created without the interest of the key stakeholders, and reasons why you see a president who was appointed earning 2 million francs CFA, and he gives subsidies to clubs 1 million francs CFA to run a season, whereas that 1 million francs CFA is like a biscuit money to an amateur club as far as a season is concerned. So all this put together, it tells you, it gives you a reason why a person like Samuel Eto'o is coming in to like come and surface the situation for Cameroon, because he believes that he has played football to the highest level. He has won trophies for Cameroon, done more than a human job, and he thinks that what he is seeing today, the trophies he gave to Cameroon, what have the monies from those trophies given to Cameroon football? So he tries to come in to see that Cameroon football has to develop. He made mention of the fact that we have the monies. Monies come from FIFA, money comes from CAF, and all those monies, you have the talents, they are there. But what stops you from organizing football? Yes, Bomunjoya might have some good points, some good achievements. He brought in sponsors for the Women's League, the Guinness, sorry for publicity, the brewery company, and women football is trying to gain some grounds. And he was giving some accountabilities as far as the season was concerned, giving some monies, how monies were spent. Yes, those were accountabilities. But when you look at the end product of the league, it becomes so worrisome. It seemed as if it was the same trend which he followed with Semenge. And so, like when the club presidents had to go for over 2 months break without the so-called subsidies given to them, and the club's president said we will not go to the pitches because our subsidies have not been given, and that made us to play a league which was supposed to play for 9 months for over 11 months, because it started at the time of Semenge, where the Coton Sport Panther game was suspended at one point in time and resumed in March. So it was somehow 11 months, which is abnormal for a league to run for 11 months, and there was no champion, because the champion that emerged was Fufu Club of Baham, which was handpicked to go and play, and Coton Sport only came in to be crown champion. So all those cacophonies, when you look at it, these are things that the next president who is coming to who is to take over the glass house out there in Chinga needs to understand that they have to first of all try to look at where we have been failing and put things together. Now, how do we look at it? Instead of us, like what we owe the Ministry of Sports, instead of us looking at this 650 million francs CFA to be given to clubs, why not put that such monies into a cup money where you bring in sponsors and they chip in? Why, and make it such a way that the clubs that win the Elite 1 or Elite 2 gets home with something of it was an estimate of 300 million francs CFA, and you start breaking them down. And I think that that will make the clubs more competitive, because they will not want to be relying on government subsidies for their running of their season, because once the government makes the clubs to believe they are still children who puts on diapers, the clubs will not play football when that money is not there. So you must make it in such a way that that money which you are supposed to give as subsidies should come in as a cup money, as an end returns to the clubs. That's the first step we need to take to develop our football. Secondly, we need to come out with some various commissions or teams to build projects for our national teams. Our national teams we have hired close to 10 coaches. We've started naming them there for the past 10 years. It tells you we cannot, there's no cohesion in terms of how we play, the model we play at our national team. There is no cohesion, and that has been a problem. We want immediate results, and that again brings us to the fact that we must try to plan our issues to make things in such a way that we get, let's say, a coach, give him about 4 or 5 years to build a team like what Krolwa was doing in the yesteryears. 1982, came in 1996, built a team for 2000, 2002. That is what we need at the level of our national teams, to build these players, and then our players should be comfortable. Now, when you make your players comfortable, at least they are competitive enough to challenge for international competitions like the CAF Champions League. How will you explain that a player will leave, the Shan is coming in 3 months' time? A player prefers not to play the Shan and prefers to sign for a Tanzanian club. I'm talking of CEDRICK whom was one of the best players of the Shan, who we hoped on. But 3 months to the Shan, he signed in for Club Azam of Tanzania, because the monies which he was not well comfortable as far as financial issues were concerned in Cameroon. But when he went to Tanzania, he was given a fast salary. There are countless players who left, who were key players of the Shan, left. Pascal Abega left Cotton. I went to AS Vita Club. Those were players whom we hoped that they would give us glory at the level of the Shan. But because the players were not comfortable where they are, they had to move. And another period, we had a suspension of the league. The league was suspended because of the Semenge Bumbonjia fight. Who is to control the league? Is it the LFPC or FECAFOOT? Cases were going to the CAS. All those issues played into. So when the next president is coming, all these things need to be put on board to ensure that we get a good project for our football and make it more competitive and attractive.
Now, Mr. Eno Akude, we've just listened to the conjugations there of Jani Ateke, and we see the handwriting and the signatures of politics in Cameroon football, where clubs are handpicked to represent the country in international competitions. Don't you think it would just be like using old wine, putting new wine in old containers, maintaining the hand of politicians in Cameroonian football? Would that change the narrative, Mr. Enoaku?
Yes, I think that football in this nation, we need to adopt the right direction. I've always been for the aspect that every element in this nation has a word to say as far as we can have a structured system. When there is a structured system, there is progress. Disorder sets in when we don't have an appropriate procedure and policies in place. That's when disorder sets in. Take, for example, the law in this nation. You have senators who are in FECAFOOT. What is it doing there? That's my question. Currently we have Senator Mbida, who knows little or nothing about football in this nation.
But they are active members of FECAFOOT.
He says he's even the current president of the federation, in quotes. Those are the things which I always say. Whenever there are lack of policies and procedures put in place, you have people who step in to create disorder. Politics, other stakeholders, is not a problem. But let us define a golden rule on how each individual their actions can improve the federation, the growth of the federation. That's what I want to say. In terms of football, why should a senator be part of football for which we are expecting actions in society? Does the law permit them, does the law permit senators to be part of football management? That's the question which we need to answer. If the law gives them the right to be managers of football, then let us see actions on ground. I'll give you another example. Joshua Osei was in the federation, was part of Southwest Bureau, but my question is, what was his output? Which club in Southwest does Joshua Osei manage? Which club in Southwest can Joshua Osei attest that he has made financial donations or things like balls, nets? I keep asking myself the question. So some of these guys use football to run their political manifestos, which is something which I decry a lot. On that perspective, I say no. But if we can have a system whereby the policies are very clear and unequivocal, so much so that we all see how delegates are voted and actions that delegates have been doing in their various regions is well seen. For example, we know what Madame Celine Eko has been doing for football. So I'm not surprised to see her as a delegate from the South. I'm not surprised to see Njalakwan Jr. as a delegate for Southwest because of what this young man has been doing for the region. Likewise, I'm not surprised to see so many others like Eugene Ekeke in the littoral region. But I keep asking myself, if politics wants to infiltrate into football, there is no problem. But we should define the rules and where each stakeholder's impact can be limited. Reasons why today we have even the marketing aspect in football. So we are not excluding politics. But if politics wants to be involved in football, it should be in the right direction. For example, the Ministry of Sports is there as a ministry for sports for the entire nation. But unfortunately, we have realized that years after years, decade after decade, it is a ministry of football, not ministry of sports. Because the minister's focus is on football. And unfortunately, areas like development of sporting infrastructures, we are lagging behind. Go to Northwest and see the infrastructure that was in progress that during the reign of Tombi Aroko. It's in the sham. There's nothing to write home of. Go to Bafia. So there's nothing to write home of. And that's where we want politics to come in. Politics should be involved in sporting activity, not about football. And if politics gets involved, let the rules be clear so that we understand where the limits are.
For those who are just tuning in, you're on to Prime Sports on My Media Prime Television, your reference point for sports in Cameroon, your reference point for sports in Africa and the world over. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point, we take interest in the Olembe Stadium. November 30 is the deadline given by the Confederation of African Football for all works to be done as far as the stadium is concerned. And according to some sources, the works at the level of the stadium are at 98%, while others believe that there is a lot that has to be done. But what explains this before and for backdance by the authorities and all stakeholders involved is a question we shall be answering in today's edition of the program. First, Mola, we had the, I would call you Mola, well, for formality reasons, we'll go back to Jamia Tekem. We had the president of CAF. We had other members of CAF visit the country in prelude to the 2022 Total Energies Africa Cup of Nations to be hosted by Cameroon, and some expressed satisfaction at the beautiful infrastructure they saw in Yaoundé. What explains this recent letter saying that Cameroon is seemingly not ready as far as Olembe is concerned?
Well, you see, it is some 4 years ago, I criticized this issue of putting round peg in square holes. Because when you look at the way we manage our things in this country, it baffles my imagination. I was one of those who criticized that you cannot put somebody like the Minister of Sports ahead of a local organizing committee for a football tournament. Let's go to South Africa. Yes, Danny Jordan is a politician, he's an activist, but he succeeded in ensuring that the infrastructures put in place to host the 2010 FIFA World Cup were successful, in that he has served as a member of the FIFA World Cup Organizing Committee in 2006. He was a general coordinator for the under 20 World Cup in 2001, and that of the Confed Cup in 2003 and the World Cup in 2002. That gave him a wide range of experience in infrastructure development in football. Reasons why he was part of the lobby to see that South Africa host in 2010. And when it came for the time for him to deliver, he delivered. We went to Qatar. We have the likes of Hassan El Tamadi. He is the Secretary General of the organization responsible for the structures, the readiness of the structures of the FIFA World Cup. He might be a lawyer, but he is a businessman. He has been involved in businesses, in projects. Reasons why Qatar is ready now. If the World Cup was to begin next month, Qatar is ready. The stadiums are there. Those are people you find in the country to put as head of committee. How do you explain that Narcis Molekom, before him was Bidun Pat, who was the head of the COCAN? What is the experience of Bidun Pat in sports infrastructure development or projects? Talk less of football. Take again Narcis Molekom. What experience does he have in project management and development in terms of sports and football? Talk less of football. So those are the things. Look at even the governor of the Southwest region, who was being put there as a local organizing committee for the Southwest projects for football, for the AFCON. Look at what he gave us there at Boyatown. We are insulting that of Cote d'Ivoire, that is tomato farm, but that one in Boyatown is more of a tomato farm than what it is built in Cote d'Ivoire. Those are the things that we have failed to ensure that these people are put in their rightful places. Do the government of Cameroon want to tell us that we don't have people who have worked with CAF or FIFA in terms of developmental projects in football? The government cannot lie. We have those people. They are there. But where are they? Why are they not used for such projects? Reasons why you will find bottlenecks who come in and lobby people who don't even know, they don't master the art, they don't master what it takes to come up with a football infrastructure, because they never fought for it. Hassan El Tamadi fought for Qatar's bid in 2011. Same with Danny Jordan. Reasons why they wanted to project the image of their nation. We talk of patriotism, yeah, that is patriotism, and they deliver. Narcis Molekom, what role did he play in seeing that Cameroon hosts the Nations Cup? There you are going to give him a president of a local organizing committee. That is where we started failing. Reasons why we could not host in 2019, because we could not meet the deadline of CAF. That Olympic Stadium was supposed to be completed in November 2018 in preparation for 2019 AFCON. But up till date, we are talking of CAF saying that if you don't complete by November 30, the opening game will be shifted from to another stadium. These are our lapses. The foundation was not well built. Reasons why we're having these lapses.
When we have such lapses, Mr. Eno Aku, what is also tempted to ask the question, how credible are the authorities at the level of the Confederation of African Football? These are the same people weeks and months ago who said that the infrastructure is the best and it's ready to host matches for the Total Energies 2021 Africa Cup of Nations. We have another letter, we have a statement from them saying that November 30 is the deadline for the stadium to be delivered. How do we reconcile these facts, Mr. Eno Aku?
There's one thing which comes to my memory each time we talk about infrastructures. The infrastructures don't belong to CAF. So more often than not, I'm not bothered about their declarations. I'm bothered about what we are doing as Cameroonians for our nation. That's where I'm looking at things. Because we are going to play those games, and within a space of 1 month or 6 weeks, it will be over. We are going to stay behind with those infrastructures. Cameroonians will talk about patriotism. Unfortunately, we are talking about a limping patriotism, because we have state officials who have hijacked the organization of the jamboree. They are everywhere in all the commissions, heading commissions. Unfortunately, we are not making progress. We think that people still believe. We have already signed what is in French, the main contract with CAF, saying we are going to be the organizing nation, for which so many Cameroonians thought. I fought for the fact that Cameroon should organize the Nations Cup. But I cannot stand behind people who use politics to tell us that we have the infrastructures when we all know. Olembe is in Cameroon. You don't need a Musepe to tell you that that stadium is not complete. You just walk to Yaoundé and check the infrastructures, you discover that it is incomplete. We don't need CAF to come and tell us. We don't need CAF to tell us that the road network is extremely poor. When you look at the road, Limbe is a host city. But look at the road network from Douala to Limbe. Look at the road network from Douala to Boya. Limbe, Boya, which is about a 20 kilometer stretch of road. It's a disaster. You don't need to be told that from Mayo Sala to Garwa is a nightmare. You don't need to be told that. You don't need to be told that in Douala, the problem of traffic has not yet been resolved.
We are looking at CAF saying that the Olembe Stadium, which is supposed to host the opening match for the AFCON coming next year in Cameroon, is not ready, and they've given a deadline. We are just about 5 days to the 30th.
Yes, Rene, it's unfortunate. We need to be truthful to ourselves. That stadium is not ready. I've listened to the Minister of Sports. I've listened to so many declarations made by the Minister of Sports. Unfortunately, it's going the wrong way. It keeps going the wrong way. Remember, Pichini started, and Pichini told us that the rate at which and the attitude of administrators is blocking the progress of that stadium. There were maneuvers, and Pichini was replaced by Magiel. Yet, we are still unable. So was Pichini the problem? It's because we don't want to look at ourselves in the mirror. Look at when you visit Olembe or Mispo Stadium, it is very glaring that we are not ready. And even if CAF finally validates, it's going to be an issue of favor. It's not going to be an issue on facts. So it's my wish that the beauty Olembe or Mispo Stadium as we find it is a wish that we play games in Olembe. Just like when we visit Japoma. Japoma is so beautiful. And today we are hosting games for other nations in Japoma. Other countries play in Japoma. And that's what we want to see at Olembe. We should be serious. We must understand that these infrastructures belong to Cameroon. So if CAF finally approves, remember even that Olembe is an Olympic sports complex.
Yes.
But today we are even still struggling to complete the stadium.
And the interesting thing is, this is a stadium that is named after the President of the Republic, yet we've hardly seen him visit this particular infrastructure.
Well, the ministers have consistently disgraced the head of state. Remember, the head of state made a declaration, le Cameroun sera prêt le jour dit. It therefore means that some individuals had given the head of state reports, making it very clear that things are going the right way, until we were stripped off the hosting right in 2019. In my opinion, all those people were supposed to be questioned. You have deceived the head of state by submitting false reports. They have falsified reports and submitted to the head of state, the number one person of the nation, to make declarations which ended up to be something which we regret. So if at the end of the day, if we have to host at Olembe, I can tell you, Rene, that it's an issue of favor. It's not an issue of merit.
Okay, the Olembe Stadium was coming with other facilities like the training grounds, the hotel, the restaurant. But we have reports from sources also that the lighting system and as well as the parking is not complete. Yet we've had the Minister of Sports and Physical Education on countless times say that we are 98% ready as far as Olembe is concerned. He said that more than 3 times already. But when we look at the lighting system, when we look at the parking, it's very questionable. What would be your reaction to that?
Well, I discussed with one of my close friends who is an engineer. He told me that stadium still has 1 year work by his own observations. Now, it comes back to my point of those who we appoint as members of a commission. Now, I would like us to look at Professor Narcissus Malekombi as a person. What experience does he have to manage such an infrastructure or such an event going into the AFCON? He has no experience. His experience is 0 over 100. But he is a president, whereas there are people whom, when you give them such projects, I'll tell you, they will execute it in no distant time because they know what it takes. They know the type of quality which is to be used as far as the stadium is concerned. Now, that is Olembe Sports Complex, where you're supposed to have... and remember, this stadium was supposed to host, I think, an athletics game, I think the All-African Games or so, at one point in time, but it was somehow rejected because the athletic tracks were not ready, and the other facilities related to other sporting disciplines were not ready. And so it was pushed forward, I think, for a later year, which just kept off my mind. Those are the events that we have been losing because that stadium is not ready. And we should imagine the income that would have come in should we have used that stadium for that particular event. It boils down to the people we appoint. This thing of putting government officials in things that do not concern them is a major problem. Enwako just mentioned that the certain company said the attitude of the government officials were a problem to their progress. That is where the problem lies. Now, when you don't know the value of something which you have not partaken in any of FIFA's infrastructure development, you have not partaken in any of CAF's infrastructure development, be it outside the country or within the country, you cannot execute what is required. That has been the problem. And we failed from the onset when we gave these commissions, this local organized committee, the COCAN, to our politicians. That was where we started failing. I have cited the aspects of the Southwest region. Narcissus Malekombi is the national person. But if you look at even not only Olembe, look at the other areas. I'm talking of the road networks, the various hotels facilities, even all those things are still to be completed. And that puts us to the questions, who actually appointed these people? Those are the million-dollar questions. Who did who did not do his job right, or who actually did a funny job. So I think that we have just, I pray that CAF validates, but I also have a kind of blame for CAF, because they consistently send politicians too to come and inspect these stadiums. When you look at the inspection of CAF at Tony Bifao, he came, he makes some of those statements. We are ready. They sent Visango Omba. He came in, we are ready. Musepe himself
came and said,
he said during the draws that Cameroon was going to host one of the best AFCONs. But when we were to play Malawi in that Japuma Stadium, when fans were not allowed, that was where the controversy of that stadium started. Where Musepe came unannounced himself, and he still made that same statement that Olembe is going to be one of the best in Cameroon. Presently, is the 9th largest in the continent. But along the line, the minister, I don't know whether that statement made by CAF actually made him to understand that he has passed the exam. Because I think that CAF too, maybe Professor Narcismo Lekombi was like misquoting CAF, saying that these are diplomacies. You must understand diplomacy. He doesn't understand. That's why I say these people, all plus his high level of education, he doesn't even understand the meaning of diplomacy. Because I think that even CAF has been failing in some way along the line, but they were playing diplomacy. CAF, you don't expect Musepe to come and tell you that stadium is not ready. No. He must tell you, he must try to lobby you and make you understand that, yes, you are doing some progress, but you need to understand that that stadium is not ready. In as much as you, as somebody is praising you, but you must understand that you must work hard. That is what Professor Narcismo Lekombi failed to do.
All right, Mr. Enoako, we have these officials who keep going back to their words, and we are left with a question: who is telling true lies?
We are actually in a scenario where, before responding to that, Rene, do you know that one of the observations made by CAF is that the design of the logo is problematic. With all the designers in this nation, yet the government has been unable to identify quality candidates to come out with appropriate designs. It's a shame for this nation. That is what baffles me. The issues about infrastructure, you and I, we already knew about that. But when it starts getting into designs, the next issue which was highlighted was the COVID protocol. That Cameroon is still not yet ready in terms of COVID protocol. Yet, we have been talking about the COVID gate in Cameroon. So much money has been spent on COVID. And CAF is still telling us that Cameroon, you still don't have an appropriate protocol for management of COVID. And we have people around who call themselves ministers. People should be answerable. Responding to your question, who is telling the true lie? You don't need a soothsayer to let you know that some people, some top officials, should be questioned on the management of funds for CAF, for the organization of this jamboree, for the organization of COVID. The last thing that CAF made mention, I think, is about the leisure industry and hospitality and tourism. Kenya's revenue, about 50% is generated from tourism. Yet, Cameroon, we are hosting an event like this. We are still struggling. This is an opportunity to portray all the cultural heritage of this nation. This nation is so diverse, from north, south, east, west. It's an opportunity for us to showcase and to get tourists visit this nation within this period to discover the beauty of Cameroon. This nation is blessed. Yet we have officials who are still not understanding how blessed we have been with all this natural endowment. And we don't need to question who is telling the sweet lie. It's within us.
Certainly, it is within us. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about the Africa Cup of Nations to be hosted by Cameroon, a tournament referred to as a little tournament by a football manager out there in Europe. We at this moment shall be paying attention to the road to Qatar and the chances of Cameroon. Cameroon, of course, in one of the matches counting for the qualifiers of the 2022 Qatar Games, beat the Elephants of Ivory Coast 1-0 in Douala Japoma Stadium. A victory many think is not still convincing, giving Cameroonians especially yet to test the final job of Antonio Conceição da Silva Oliveira's. Jame Ateke, how convincing is Cameroon's victory against the Elephants of Ivory Coast in build-up to the 2022 World Cup to be played in Qatar?
Well, it is somehow, it had to do with the character determination and some responsibility for both the players, because it was played at the context of the AFCON FIFA. And so those players, in order to gain support from the fans, had to do the job which they had to do to get the results. But credits to Conceição for coming up with his tactics, and it worked well for him on that fateful night out there at the Japoma Stadium, and he had to grab the results. And I think there is still some little problems which he has to actually address at a time when we had to play against the likes of Burkina Faso, Cape Verde, and Ethiopia, whom we saw how Burkina Faso gave the likes of Algeria a run for their money. Same with Cape Verde, they gave Nigeria a run for their money. So we have to be careful about this nation. So there's lots of work to be done at the level of creating chances and converting them. Because on that fateful day we had our chances, we maximized the chance which Katoko scored, but somewhere along the line we had to squander chances, especially from Gamale, Abubakar and the rest who squandered chances, and we could have conceded. And should we have conceded on that fateful day, then it would have been the end of the story for us. But kudos to the likes of Andrew Nanawu, after 9 months of absence, also proved that he's still back and he's still the best goalkeeper we have as far as Cameroon is concerned, and even why not Africa. And talking about our opponents, potential opponents as far as the playoffs is concerned, we could beat, or we can beat all of them as far as the other teams are concerned. We just need to apply the same determination and character, then we can have the others with our left hand, because they too are also going to be afraid of us. I'm talking of the top, the Pot A teams. You talk of Senegal, Tunisia, Nigeria, Morocco, and Algeria. Those teams, I will not actually outrightly say they are the big names, but I think that we still have an upper edge if we had to meet any of those teams as far as the final rounds of the qualifiers are concerned. So it's all about Conceição now coming with different tactics in terms of creating chances and seeing that he gets the best tactics out of the players.
Mr. Enoako, a majority of goals scored by Cameroonians has come from set pieces. We've hardly seen Cameroonians create chances and convert them to goals. And we are questioning the defense as well as the attack. When you look at the team and you look at their outing in Malawi and also against Cote d'Ivoire, how convinced are you if Cameroon is to be drawn up against a country, say Algeria, or say a country like Senegal? What are Cameroon's chances to go to Qatar?
Well, as we currently speak, the chances are 50-50 for everyone. Yes, it's not yet done for any nation. I think we had a sweet victory in Japoma. We all applauded. Remember that Ivory Coast is not it's a very one of the best nation in terms of football in Africa, and defeating Ivory Coast in Yaoundé definitely was something all of us need to write home of. So on that perspective, I think that we also stand a chance of qualifying for Qatar 2022. When I look at, in terms of the tactics, remember then Ivory Coast were defeated 2-1, and in Yaoundé we defeated them in Japoma, it was a 1-0. At the end of the day, during the knockout phase, it's an issue of the best tactics for the day. And he who gets the tactics right definitely wins the game. At times, when we watch football, there is what we actually desire to see, which is often different from what is actually being done. And at times, what we get for a day is based on the opponent. On a particular day, Cameroon can definitely beat another nation 4-0 based on the tactics. It all depends on who your opponent is. Remember, Ivory Coast has one of the best strikers in Africa today. In the person of Hale, we keep watching him on even during the Champions League as well as in the Eredivisie division. So he is one of the best strikers, putting people after people like Mohamed Salah and Mane. But again, in Japoma, he was nowhere to be found. We needed to dissolve his prowess. So I think that the chances are still very open, and I believe with the boys, because they have proven to us that when politicians are not patriotic, where patriotism can be felt is only when the Lions are playing. And unfortunately, they are the ones who are always being insulted for not being patriotic to play for the nation. But where we expect politicians to be patriotic in developing football infrastructures, they are never patriotic.
We may want to have the impression that at the level of the goalkeeping, there is already a solution, given that Andre Onana was called in, and when we look at the caliber of matches he was called in to, represent the country, one is left with the impression that, yes, there's a solution for that. But when you look at the defense, possibly against Ivory Coast, Cameroon also showed signs that the defense is somewhat stable. But looking at the attack, we have Choupo-Moting, who is advanced and is available this week and not available this other week for injury reasons, just like Vincent Aboubakar. Who do you see at the level of that attack to create the chances from the midfield possibly and, get that person, that goal-getter?
There's one thing about football. We have grown to understand that in life, whenever there is no discipline, there is bound to be failure. And I think that Choupo-Moting has been demonstrating for so many years how unfocused he is as far as the Lions are concerned. And remember, there were games whereby he told us he had injuries, but we found him playing when Bayern has games in Germany.
After the international break.
After the international break. That was so sad. Because as the leader of a team, you are there to inspire the younger generation. But unfortunately, I'm not seeing that from him. I still don't see that from him. He could be a good player, but when it comes to the national team, I think that he's still an average player. And remember, even out there in Europe, it's because we are having drought as far as the attacking compartment is concerned. If not, I won't count on a player who is not disciplined. I won't count on a player who is not focused. I'll preferably play with somebody like Ngamale, play with Aboubakar, play with somebody like Bassagok, who are willing and committed. If you play with people who are committed, you can easily get the result. But when you play with people who think that they are doing us a favor, then it becomes questionable. Reasons why I have nothing against Choupo-Moting. I'm just looking at what is leadership. What is leadership, and does he demonstrate true leadership as a senior player in the squad? So on my part, I find him wanting. Just like I will never appreciate to find Joel Matip within the Lions rank, irrespective of his performance. Because what you want to avoid is to build on a sandy soil. Let us understand that what you do today, in football school, what are you taught? You are taught to pick the balls. You are taught to pick the nets. You are taught to pick bottles on the pitch because you are a newcomer. And who are those who teach you those characteristics? They are the senior players. But if the senior players like Choupo-Moting cannot demonstrate love for the nation, there are players who can play games while having an injury for their nation. There are names which I will not cite today who have decided to play games even though they were injured because of love for the nation. That's why I keep saying we need to build a team whereby nobody is indispensable.
I'll come back to you there. Amula, I would like us to also pay attention to one aspect. We have a host of African teams to play for the last round of qualifiers, and that has brought to the fore the question that Africa's representative at the level of the World Cup is very timid, and there are schools of thought who believe that Africa should have more representative, just like Europe, given the fact that Africa has 54 nations and Europe has a similar amount. And they are saying, why should Europe have more representations when Africa, with almost a similar population, has little or less?
Well, it is all about the how we develop our football and how we get competition out there in terms of world football. We have the talent, like I could borrow those words, we have the talents, we have the monies, but we can't organize our football. Now, Europe might be playing discriminatory attitudes, but when you look at it critically, it boils down to performance that increase them to where they are. If you look at Denmark, look at Senegal, that's the #1 ranked team in Africa. But their stadium was, they found it difficult for their stadium to be homologated. Now, at that point, are we ready to ask for more slots if our #1 ranked teams, their stadiums are yet to be homologated? They were homologated based on negotiations. Same with Ghana. The Cape Coast Stadium with Ghana hosted South Africa was based on negotiations because the stands was not security 100% for fans. Now, when you look at all this dirty image that these conditions, which are supposed to be our role model nations in Africa, behave like this, then why are we asking for more slots if we cannot build a befitting stadium for our own top nations?
Mr. Inoako, some observers are of the opinion that Africa cannot have high representatives at the level of the World Cup, given their performance itself at the World Cup. In fact, Cameroon remains one of the countries to have gone farthest as far as Africa is concerned. And it stands to Cameroon, according to these observers, that Africa has the representation it has now. Would you endorse such an argument?
I would totally disagree with my brother, Mr. Jemia, for some few reasons. CONMEBOL has how many representatives for the World Cup?
At 4.5 or something like that.
Latin America has how many representatives? That is CONCACAF.
Yes, 3 or something like that.
CONCACAF, the Latin America, they have 4 places, 4 to 5 places. CONMEBOL has, and we should understand, CONMEBOL has nations like Panama. So we'll be thinking of, they have Honduras. They have Guyana. That is CONMEBOL for you. And you think that they merit more than Africa? The answer is no. It is high time, and I have written articles on that. And I've been chatting with people like Mamadou Gueye of Ivory Coast. We have been discussing on that. Because it is high time for Africa to wake up. The CONCACAF, they have, I think, about 10 representatives. Uruguay, Paraguay, Bolivia, Peru, Argentina, Brazil. I think there are about 10 of them. And they have 4 to 5 places. Africa, we have about 32 nations. Yet, we have only 5 spots. That is unfair. And FIFA has a slogan, fair play. There is no fair play in that distribution. There is no equity in that. It is high time for FIFA to understand. In Europe, when games are being played, there is Cyprus, there is Malta, there is Azerbaijan, there is all those, you can name, there is Kosovo, and there is Uzbekistan. Are they better off than Cote d'Ivoire? Are they better off than Cameroon? It is high time. How many stadiums does Uzbekistan have? How many stadiums has Kosovo? It is high time for us, Africa, to understand that inequality has to stop by FIFA. FIFA needs to come back on the drawing board. We have to sit on the same drawing board to decide how many teams come from what each continent and what are the rules. If you ask 10 sports analysts and consultants, what are the rules? Why is Europe having more teams? You discover that people will have less substance on the table.
Mr. Enoako, your conjugations there brings to the fore the question of the independence of African football federations. Let's take the example of Cameroon in a no distant history or past, where we can clearly see the sick nature of FIFA and the Confederation of African Football trying to decide and handpick a president of a football federation.
Reasons why, in my article, I did say CAF needs financial independence. We don't need to depend that much on FIFA subvention. We need to be buoyant in terms of our finances. Because what happens is when we get, I'll quote Mamadou Gueye, who said that more often than not, when the CAF president sits at the level of FIFA, they are even scared of pronouncing the word Africa. It is high time for us to understand that Africa has come a long way. We have contributed positively in the development of football. Consequently, Africa deserves more places. Remember, football started with 4 nations. How come today Europe has
18?
The not 18, 13. How comes today Europe has 13 and Africa with 32 delegates, we are still talking of 5. There is so much unfairness in the distribution of the national cake as far as FIFA is concerned. Africa deserves more. We have Ivory Coast, we have Senegal, we have Cameroon, we have the Burkina Faso. They are better off than Kosovo. I'm not here to undermine other nations, but in terms of football and infrastructures as well as our history in terms of football, those nations, Cameroon is better off than Malta.
We're going to be coming back to that in subsequent editions of the program Prime Sports on My Media Prime Television. Your reference points, ladies and gentlemen, for sports in Cameroon, Africa, and the world over. Diving on to the next item on our agenda, we would be looking at a controversial penalty awarded to the Black Stars of Ghana in one of the matches counting for qualifiers of the World Cup to be played in the year 2022 in Qatar, and a case which is ongoing and a verdict which was expected to be delivered today. We're still hoping to get that particular verdict, but then we know that the South African Football Federation thinks that they were cheated, giving the penalty is quite questionable. In the footage you'll be watching, ladies and gentlemen, we shall have our special panelists here dissect that for us and tell us if it was actually or it is a penalty or not, and if the decision counts. First, the South African Football Federation, Jamia, believes that the match had some, hands passing behind the shadows and that it was a fixed match. When you look at the decision of the central referee and his assistants, do you share and do you endorse such an argument that the match was fixed?
Well, for losers in terms of short games, it's very, very real or accept. It's very real to see the losing side coming to criticize such decisions. Remember that South Africa, before that game, they were topping that particular group, and so they already knew that they were on their way to the playoffs. And so when Ghana had to turn that ties around, they look for some flippy excuses of that. Yes, the penalty might look somehow controversial in the way the guy Daniel Ameti fell down, as we saw, as we have seen in the footage there. The South African, or the Mamelodi Sundowns defender, Rashin Derek, he actually, there was contact, because when you look at the footage well, you see that there was a grabbing.
Like we have
there was a grabbing. So
we are looking at the contact, but
but now the South Africans are saying that there was no contact between the two players, but the Ghanaians are of the opinion that there was contact.
All right.
So that is where the problem lies. But
let's have an opportunity to watch the scenes there. Would see the ball is swinged in from the corner flag, and we clearly see a contact. But then I think the main question is, of what impact is the contact before it can be judged a penalty, Mr. Ako? There we go, and down he goes.
Now, the question is, we are talking about transforming football. And in Europe, we have the video assistant referee, the VAR. Why are we still playing games without having the VAR in a CAF game like what we just saw? I've been championing campaigns to ensure that some certain things, we need a mindset, a change of mindset, a change of attitude. If there was a VAR, that would have been an opportunity for the ref to check and recheck before coming out with a final decision. Now we are left in a subjective mode, and because of subjectivity, I already know what CAF might come out with. The ref might be suspended. And
that's what the South African Football Federation is asking for.
And Ghana will still maintain the 3 points.
Because that was the same thing that happened with Ghana-Uganda in 2017. And the referee on that day was a South African referee, Daniel Bennett. He denied the same goal, a goal that was disallowed, that was caught by the same Daniel Ameti, which he said it was an offside goal. But now the Ghanaians protested that goal. But the FIFA decision concerning that particular game remained the same, but the referee was suspended. Now, so that is where we are looking at it.
We have innovation in football, and you, Mr. Enoako, have conjugated that the VAR can be used. Even in cases like this, we can apply the VAR and possibly arrive at the decision.
We are talking here of that stadium being homologated based on negotiations. So how do you expect such a stadium to really have a VAR? It's very difficult. Now, what I would expect from CAF is that since this has been a very sensitive issue, these 10 teams whom are to play the playoffs should be well told that you must have a VAR, because we are going for the final stage to get the best teams to represent our continent. You must have the VAR, and the VAR must be installed in the various stages to ensure the fairness of the game and the objectivity. Though the VAR at one point in time is somewhat controversial, but I think CAF needs to start thinking on that, because we might reach a situation where Cameroon will be playing against an Algeria side, and maybe Kautoko or Mare scores a goal that is offside, and the VAR is not there. We keep on questioning with this sort of decisions. So I think that CAF, the decision is yet to be taken. It has been launched by FIFA.
I think they sat for the verdict yesterday, the 23rd.
Yeah, they couldn't come up with a verdict, and we hope that one of the verdicts or the innovations will be that the VAR should be introduced come the third and final rounds of the qualifiers, so that we will have a clear-cut fairness in terms of decision-making as far as our football is concerned.
All right, we're 5 minutes to the end of the show, and we shall be taking a few text messages and reactions in the studio tablet. We have a question for you, Mr. Enoako. They're asking you, made a comment that seeing the return of Joel Matip to the national team would be unacceptable. But don't you think, this text message is unsigned, but don't you think he would have a positive impact if the likes of Joel Matip and Nkulu were to be brought back to the den of the lions?
That's a very good question, but I want us to analyze it in a very different way. What if we don't qualify? What if we don't qualify? We need people who can make sacrifices. And if you cannot participate during the period of sacrifice, then you should not also participate during the period of feasting. That's how I look at things. We need to inspire the young ones. Remember, we have the younger generation. We don't want a scenario where our younger ones grow in the mindset that they can take decisions which is contrary to the focus of the nation. When these guys go to play, they play for the nation, not for themselves. So we am of the point of view that let our attitude motivate the younger generation. We should have the right focus. Just like in a house, it will not be appropriate for a child to beat up the father because you want to move on with the right behavior. So Matip has made a decision. We have been playing the qualifiers with Ngande, for example. Imagine a scenario that we qualify and we have to drop Ngande for Matip. What does that depict? Or what do we sell?
Question for you. Would Eto help bring young talents plying their trade out of Africa to represent green, red, yellow?
Yeah, it's all about the organization of our football. I tell you something that during we played Mozambique in the return leg in Morocco, where we arrived at 5 a.m. to play match at 2 p.m. Two players, one of them was William Saliba, a potential Cameroon international who is playing now with Olympique de Marseille. He's an Arsenal player on loan. He vehemently refused that, seeing such situations, he's not going to come to play for the national team of Cameroon. Now, how do you attract players? Based on the way you manage food, because those players themselves, some of them grow up in Europe with the European mentality of how they manage football, how they do the football organization, football management. Now, Eto he can't come in and try to attract these boys based on how he puts his policies on football management. How the Lions are catered for when we go for international matches like the qualifiers or the AFCON. How are the Lions catered for? How is our league structured? That attracts players who were born outside to desire to play for Cameroon. If such things are not done, then we can't attract those players. Because those players are watching, they are on the fence. They are looking at the circumstances. They are looking at events happening in Cameroon. So those events affect their behaviors towards come play for Cameroon. And we have cited Saliba, who is going to be a kind of, with the grace of God, for him to come and play for Cameroon. Same with Yusuf Mokoko. Those are players who are potential Cameroon players in the future. They are not up to 20. But should we organize our football well, these players might be tempted to come for our national team.
Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of today's edition of Prime Sports on My Media Prime Television, your reference point for sports and your reference point for information as far as sports development is concerned in Cameroon, Africa, and the world over. In today's edition of the program, we looked at elections at the helm of the CAF. We equally paid a very close attention to the road to Qatar and the chances for Cameroon, who is also telling true and sweet lies as far as Olembe Stadium is concerned. And we looked at the controversial penalty awarded Ghana in the qualifiers match for the 2022 Qatar World Cup. We had as panelist sports consultant Mr. Eno Ako. He joined us body and soul in today's edition of the program. Sir, we are very grateful you accepted the invitation to be with us in today's edition of the program. Hoping to be with you in subsequent editions of Prime Sports on this champion channel.
Thank you so much, Rene. My wish is to see that the delegates, somebody like Henry Njalakwan, to whom I extend my greetings, as they go to Yaoundé, they should be voting for the right candidate.
Certainly, they should be voting for the right candidate. Sports writer, reporter, working with a host of sites, publishing good sports stories. Jamia Teke was with us. Ladies and gentlemen, in today's edition of the program, we are grateful you took the difficult journey to be with us in today's edition of the program. Thank you very much, and hoping that in subsequent editions of the program, we shall be with you again.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I shared a panelist with a consultant, with other platforms. We've shared platforms, but not this one. So it's a pleasure being here with him. I love his insight, and he knows, he masters the art so well. And I think we hope the televiewers enjoyed it. I just want to say we are the cause of our downfall in terms of the Olympic Stadium not being ready. We failed to put square pegs in square holes, reasons why we are in this situation. So we hope to get a positive response from FIFA or CAF with regards to our hosting rights and where the opening game is going to be played. Is it the Olympic or the different stadia?
A big question, and possibly there will be an answer to that in subsequent editions of the program. Ladies and gentlemen, for presentation, my name has been Rene Issa, and we thank you all for accepting to host us in your different houses and comfort zones via the medium of your television sets. Stay well, stay blessed, cool, composed, and calm. Until we meet again, be blessed.